Hello, my name is Boris Jukic. I'm an associate dean and a professor at Clarkson University in Potsdam, Northern New York. And the topic of my presentation today is various reasons to consider getting your MBA in an online fashion. So I will speak for a period of time, and then we'll open it for Q&A. But you can start submitting your questions as early as right now. Okay, so idea behind an MBA in general is basically to accelerate your career advancement. It is the ultimate professional degree. So the point of getting an MBA is to either achieve or to match existing managerial roles that may exist in your organization or are something that you're striving for. So whether it's entry or mid-level management, very often, MBA is the #1 requirement. Now, let's talk a little bit about advantages of doing it in an online fashion. And online, you can really think of it while you, online is probably the least disruptive way of attaining a good quality education today. Now, obviously, one issue with online is that it's kind of hard to separate wheat from chaff, so to speak. So you have to do a little extra research to really investigate what programs are, #1, legitimate, #2, match your learning style, and #3, that they offer at least comparable services to what they offer for their residential or evening students, those that they see in person. So in general, doing an MBA while you're working is something that's beneficial for a variety of reasons. One of it is that you can apply what you're learning directly to your current job description and position. So knowledge transfer and knowledge application is instantaneous. Another good thing is that you're not sacrificing your opportunity cost of going out of the workplace and foregoing your salary. And then the third one related to that, if you're currently employed, you should always investigate employer reimbursement options. As the economy has been improving, many companies, large and mid-sized, are reopening their tuition reimbursement options to their employees. So chances are, again, depending on what company you work for, that some of those funding are more available now than they were, let's say, a year or 2 years ago. Again, I hear it from people. It's somewhat anecdotal, but as the economy improves, that is something that seems to be becoming more available. Maybe not as heydays of the mid-2000s, but it's definitely getting to be a little better. All right. So when you talk about separating wheat from chaff, so to speak, one abbreviation that you want to be familiar with is ASCSB. Association for Advancement Colleges and Schools of Business. So that is our, let's say, gold standard accreditation body. So you really want to consider schools that are ASCSB accredited. Now, every school will tell you they're accredited, but there's different accreditation bodies. So some ASCSB is by far most thorough and requires that people who work there are fully qualified to teach, have professional and or academic experience that matches what they do, and that their curriculum standards are rigorous and correspond to what the marketplace really wants. So our school is ASCSB accredited. Another thing that you want to go for is you want to consider a program that is not online designated. So you want your MBA to say that it's MBA. You don't want to say online MBA. So you want to look at the curriculum and ideally the faculty who teach in the online MBA program are the same as in the residential program, so that it's not just offloaded to a bunch of adjuncts and people who are not necessarily formally tied to that university. One of the things also, a lot of MBAs have prerequisites, so you have to have a certain set of undergraduate courses. I know for online, for working professionals, if you have an engineering degree or liberal arts degree, that may not be the option. So what we do and other schools often do, they waive prerequisites for the online option, but then they make core courses a little longer. So for example, in our residential, all the core courses are 2-credit courses, but in our online program, they're 3 because the first credit is this basics of marketing, accounting, finance, operations, and so on. Again, convenience is obvious, but again, let's talk a little bit about certain aspects of convenience. So you want to kind of look at services that are offered on campus are offered online. So for example, e-library, advising via phone or via web conferencing, and having the professors actually keep office hours also for online students, again, via two-way phone or two-way web conferencing and so on and so forth. And also another thing that you want to be able, one of the big advantages of MBA, like every professional degree, is that you want to form a network of professional peers, industry leaders. You want to be able to reach out to faculty for career advice. And also, for example, we offer all of that, but also we have career fairs, and we had online students attend career fairs in person, but also we have recently started online career fairs. So let's say if you live in California or somewhere far away from where we are, we have virtual booths with potential employers that interview, quote unquote, students in an online setting. So again, you want to make sure that as many services and as much experience in residential setting is also translated to the online program. All right, so again, let me summarize certain things. So again, relocation, pay, moving costs. You're not, this location independence is very important. So again, you want to have the experience, and we'll talk a little bit and add some samples of what our web sessions look like. They're essentially two-way video and audio, so you do have this personal contact. You do know who your classmates are. You do know who the professor is. You know what they look and sound like. But again, your location independent. So essentially, wherever you are, as long as there's high-speed internet access and your browser works and your Wi-Fi is there, and your webcam works, you are able to participate. What we noticed, at least in our example, is that online learners are better able to observe and understand information and perform better tests and earn higher grades. And that is partly due to they're a little older, a little more experienced. We use the same admission criteria for both residential and online, but also, and you want to look at program levels, we keep our online classes small, and we'd like to think of online sessions as value added. Let's not just think how to match the classroom experience, but how to exceed it. So for example, all the classes are recorded. We use a lot of neat features such as instant polling, scheduled participation. So for example, class participation is much higher in online classes because some people come out of their shell through chat, and we get them on camera. So we have actually better, livelier discussions with 15 to 20 online students than necessarily 50 residential students in a classroom. And again, we do offer, and you want to kind of go, I'm going back to that point of ability to network with other MBA students that you feel that they're your colleagues and that you belong to the same group. All right, so you want to look at the programs that have somewhat flexible schedule. So for example, we offer a degree that can be completed in as little as 21 months, and upper limit is 5 years. And I personally think it should be a little less. We may move it down to 4. But essentially, you think of an MBA as a credit program. So ours happens to be 42 credits. So we don't think in terms of semesters to complete it, like how quickly can you wrap up those 42 credits. And MBA structure typically is a two-tier structure in terms of completion. There are core courses followed by electives, but not all electives need prerequisites. So we try to be very flexible with students. So for example, to complete in the 21 months, we try to get students on 2 courses at a time schedule. So over four quarters in a year, you complete in 7 of those quarters, 21 months, you are able to complete all the requirements if you stay on that schedule. Sometimes people are busy, they travel, they drop to only 1. Sometimes they even skip a quarter. But some people, which we don't recommend, but let's say it's slow at work, or you know that next 3 months are not going to be, sometimes they jump on 3 courses, but that's very rare. I mean, when we say as little as 21 months, we assume you have 2 different courses on your agenda during the 3 months period. Our MBA courses are based on virtual classroom sessions using two-way video conferencing. And I will post some samples in our chat room, and they're essentially links, and you can click on them, and they're a couple of minutes, and I have several versions. One version is when a professor lectures to a group of students. One version is when a professor is guiding a class discussion among students, but he's more of a moderator. And then we have one where students are doing classroom presentation, again, all using this virtual classrooms. All the sessions, again, one of the standards you should expect, all the sessions, whether they're pre-recorded lectures or virtual classes, should be available for watch and review. Now, it's a bit of a two-edged sword, and we try to tell students just because classroom sessions are recorded, that doesn't mean that that gives you a free pass not to attend. And we try to stay on serious attendance schedule. We are flexible, I mean, and as we should be because you're working professionals, but you lose something. I mean, it's a convenience to be able to review whether you attended or not, but you lose something of immediacy if you don't attend virtual classroom sessions. Okay, again, and you also want to be, you want to investigate financial aid options. So for many universities, online programs are their, and especially in business school, online business programs are their cash cows. So you want to look at the programs that offer financial aid, whether it's merit-based or need-based, that it's the same as for residential. So for example, we offer scholarships, whether they're working professionals or just somebody who likes the convenience. We offer the same range of merit-based scholarships to our online MBA students as we do to residential. So again, treatment is exactly the same. It used to be that we were under pressure to treat this more as a, full pay, executive, but we decided, we consciously took the approach that MBA is an MBA, and for many people it's just another consumption channel, and therefore they should be treated in exactly the same way. So again, those are the things that you should be aware. Totality of the experience, the quality of presentation, and who is doing the teaching, and then how are you treated from the financial aid point of view. All right, so that was pretty much it. I didn't want to make it too long of a presentation. I'm going to open it to questions. And also, as we do the questions, I'm also going to post some of the links to sample courses at the same time. All right. So while I'm doing that, anybody has questions? Bear with me for a second. I'm getting several courses posted. The first link that I'm going to post is actually from the class I teach. It's called IS 606, Information Systems. And while I post that, I'm going to actually also answer the first question. So do we offer any scholarships? Yes. So we offer, as I mentioned in my presentation, we offer same range of scholarships as we offer to our residential students. When we say merit-based, what I mean by that, it's based on your total profile of a student. So, which means your past experience, if any, your undergraduate academic performance, and also your standardized test, GMAT score. Now, we waive GMAT for people with certain number of experience, but I would be wary of the programs who advertise no GMAT needed, no GRE needed, because you kind of get what you pay for, and also it's essentially kind of devil's bargain. The programs that will let you in without GMAT will also not offer typically any financial aid, and they will treat it more as a revenue, as a pure revenue source. Okay. So that's, again, something to keep in mind. Okay, so I posted one, and let me see if I can. Yeah, so the second link I posted, the first one was from the information system. So how can the GMAT be waived? So the GMAT can be waived based on based on, let's say, the years of experience. So the way we use it, like, there has to be a certain number of years, 5 to 7 years of relevant work experience with some kind of managerial responsibility. So that is pretty much our way to do it. So for example, we have some people lately, like, let's say, people who are in the military for 10 years as officers or NCOs, that to me is relevant managerial experience. Or if you were in any kind of decision making, so it's partly based on the review of your resume. Our admissions committee may ask follow-up questions. So the total fee amount for our MBA, again, it varies. I mean, so the nominal, like, we have a per credit cost, so it's about almost $1,400 per credit. So the initial fee looks kind of scary, somewhere in the range of $50,000. But that said, that can be reduced by a great factor based on merit-based scholarships, and also based on one thing that online MBA has in terms of flexibility is, again, time to complete. So one thing that we're working with students is, let's say you have a limited amount of funding initially, we can stretch that dollar longer by not insisting on paying, by kind of slowing down your schedule. So for example, we have certain people whose employee reimbursement is a certain amount of money, so we try to make their schedule work within that reimbursement schedule. How do employers view online MBA program? Well, again, that's what I said. Our MBA degree says MBA. So you are under no obligation to tell what kind of channel you use because it's exactly the same quality. I think employers should view it based on, again, quality of curriculum. So our MBAs don't say, look, I'm an online MBA. When they go to the career advice, their resume says MBA, and they have zero reason. Our MBA is exactly the same, diploma is the same, so there is no reason to even mention that as a particular separate channel. In general, if it's an online MBA, again, people often may think, oh, this is kind of a lighter version, it wasn't as rigorous, and that's why it's very important to consider degrees that don't make that distinction. So placement assistance. So in terms of placement, in our example, you have full access to the career fair. So you can do resume review, you can do sessions with our advisors in terms of looking for certain jobs. You have access to our alumni employer list. So our school, we have a really strong career fair. It's almost entirely based on our former alumni being bosses and decision makers. So we get about 150 companies here in person on campus. So all these career fairs are completely open to all the Clarkson students, and only Clarkson students, but online student has full rights as everybody else, so they can attend, they can put themselves in the pool of potential applicants, and you do the job interviews with them exactly as if you were a regular MBA. And secondly, again, we now offer also virtual fairs where companies interview, and again, it's closed only to our students, but again, you have all the exact same rights and privileges as any other student. Okay, and again, I can't emphasize this strongly enough. When you consider online MBA programs, you want the program that has the least daylight, the least difference between their regular experience and online experience. What if I'm not in U.S. but in India? What placement assistant? Then again, same thing. Half of our residential students are international, so we talk to them in terms of job, career, job placement. There is one critical difference, though. When you are in person, you get F1 visa, and when you complete your MBA program with F1 visa, you get a certain period of time for something called optional practical training, which is for business degrees 12 months, for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and medicine, they're 24 months. But in a sense, that's your temporary working visa. So you can work during that period, and then typically the progression is you work for a company, and then you prove your worth, and they start an H-1B visa program where you kind of get your visa. Now, obviously, if you're international who never really had an F1 student status, then you can't really also get an OPT. So we can help with assessment, with matching, but it would be then up to the company to offer you H-1B right off the bat. You don't have that. You don't have that 1-year period. Who is best suited for an online MBA? I would say somebody who is not straight out of school. That's number one. Somebody who has work experience and has contacts into which to contribute, onto which to build the knowledge that's acquired in the MBA program. And also, the third thing is, again, think of the benefits. Somebody whose time, whose time and life situation does not allow them to just up and go somewhere residential. Obviously, then the question is, if you live in a big urban center, there's a lot of decent quality evening MBAs, and then that decision also has to be, that factors to be taken in account. Flexibility, I worry about the resources that are available, tutors, access to aids, and in your help our professors and staff with distance learners. Again, this is something that is very, very critical. Excellent question. U.S. News and World Report, which is the main ranking body for graduate programs, has just started MBA ranking on online MBAs. And one of the critical ranking criteria is the support. So again, we're very cognizant, we're very strict in terms of limiting the number of students and insisting that the faculty treat online students in exactly the same way. So you still be able to talk to them in person, you still are able to use screen sharing options. So for example, let's say you have problems with Excel. Faculty can sit one-on-one with you. I mean, I happen to teach Excel and walk you through the certain aspects of question and problem that you may have in pretty much the same way. The idea is that you still get that one-on-one attention. In terms of TAs, in our example, again, all the graduate schools, all the graduate programs we require faculty to do all their advising and counseling directly. So for graduate programs, we don't rely on TAs, we rely directly on faculty. Okay, so the next question, how do admission programs have, so the question was, how do admission standards compare with versus in-person MBA programs? Does the fact that online programs are essentially accessible to the entire population drive standards higher than an on-campus program? Okay, I can speak, in general, they're lower. In our example, they're exactly the same. So no, again, we want to make very little distinction on, and actually we have something called hybrid students, some that take one semester here, then they travel, they do it online, or vice versa. So no, you want to go to a program whose admission standards are exactly the same. So same range of GMAT scores, same range of qualification, same range of GPA, and so on. So you want to be, again, that has been our strategy and our policy. Again, I would be wary of the programs whose admission standards are lower for online MBA, because then, I'm not going to mix the words, but they're really then more after your money, because with the lower admission standards come probably higher implied tuition. In whether the tuition is actually different altogether, we happen to have a law that all the tuition has to be the same, but not all the schools have that, or just through less or no availability of financial aid or scholarship. So those are the critical things that you want to look at. But again, admission standards are not driven by supply. Oh, there's more potential online, and so we can be more picky. No, that's not our approach. And again, we're kind of returning to that same point, which I think is, if you're going to have one takeaway from this, is you want your online experience to match and or exceed your regular MBA experience. It should not be a compromise. It should not be, oh, well, I like to use this term. It should not be a glorified correspondence course. So there should be, you should look for programs that have strong synchronous, and there's this term, synchronous versus asynchronous. Synchronous means in real time, two-way conversation that's built on the regular two-way interaction between faculty and students, rather than posting all materials on learning platforms such as, we all use learning platforms to post the materials like Blackboard and Moodle and so on, but that should not be the only thing. it should be, the level of interactivity and real personal touch should meet or exceed the level of interactivity that you get in a regular classroom. And that interactivity is between student and a professor and between students themselves. So I have wonderful experiences of giving team projects to online students, and I notice how well they actually work together, and it's always nice to see them do a joint presentation, even though they might be in 4 different states or even countries, and yet you can see this team spirit being built through working on group projects using online conferencing platforms. So in a sense, again, it should be value added, and you should walk away with something even more than your regular MBA. All right, so I would like your questions again. If you have more, oh yeah, I didn't scroll, so there's more questions. What kind of career support is given to online MBA students at Clarkson? As I said, you're completely able to access the same career services as the regular students, only through a different means. So instead of having a one-to-one session with our advisors, you're doing a web conference with the advisor. You are eligible to attend all our residential career fairs, but you also can attend our virtual career fairs that are, again, open only to our students. How many hours per week would an average online student spend working on school? So let's assume the scenario that we recommend. Let's say you want to finish in 21 months. So you want to take 2 classes at a time. So basically, this is what your schedule would look like. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 of those days you would attend a class between an hour and a half. So your attendance is about 3 hours a week. 2 of those days, we also post pre-recorded lectures. So we split the synchronous and asynchronous part. So you have some readings, but you also have to quote-unquote attend a class at your own time. So that adds up to about 6 hours a week. Now, homework, assignments, studying, learning. So I would say if you're going to go with that accelerated schedule, you should probably allocate at least 10 hours a week on school. And I know it's a lot to ask, but that's if you want to move on both tracks, professional and academic, at the same time, those are the sacrifices you have to be prepared to make. Obviously, you can slow down. This is what's nice. You can slow down. You can accelerate and do more. Not every course. Some courses have a lot of homework. Some have less. Some courses have like regular homework every week. Some have more like projects and term papers towards the end. So it varies. But on average, let's say it to be 10 to 15 hours a week if you're planning to finish in 21 months. So so if someone wants to choose between the type of program delivery and reputation of school, what should one choose? That's a very good, excellent question. Yeah. So let's say let's run a hypothetical scenario. So let's say you are accepted into residential program of a solid school, but into an online program of like a top 20 brand name school. Again, it would very much depend on what that online program, whether they're marketing and offering you the same thing as residential. So if closer it is, the experience, the requirements, and the value of that diploma is that there's less difference between online and residential, then you should only go by reputation. But if it's, without naming it, but if it's like a top 20 ranked business school, and the online degree doesn't look and feel and smell the same as the regular MBA, so lower admission requirements, a less rigorous schedule, the faculty, I mean, one thing that you should ask, who's teaching these classes? Are they the same star faculty that you have on your websites, or are there some people who are not closely affiliated? Then I would not, the fact that it's a brand name program would be of less importance to me, and I would rather go for a better, more solid academic experience. And again, so for example, there's sort of like Harvard business degree opens many doors if it's residential. I don't know. I'm just mentioning as an example, but I don't know how many and what kind of online programs they offer and whether they carry the same way. All right. What is the minimum GMAT score at Clarkson? Okay. So our admission process is run by the faculty admission committee, which consists of faculty that is independent of this office. So I can argue and charm and present case, but they make the decision. They have certain guidelines, but there is no real, I mean, it's all in relation to what? We, for example, research will show that GMAT score tends to drop further you are away from your undergraduate education. So, there's a positive, firmly established correlation between years of experience without being in school and GMAT score. So, for example, while we may expect 550 from a regular MBA, at least, that number will go down to 500, maybe even a little below 500. I mean, if somebody looks really good with all the other aspects. So those are the, and again, every person is different. Obviously, if the score is really, really bad, and really bad I mean like 450 and below, or then it doesn't really matter. But there's more leeway, especially if the work experience is a bigger factor. Is this a general MBA or there's specialization? So, that's a diff. In residential, we offer several concentrations. Currently, in the general, we have general MBA, and we do offer supply chain specialization. In the future, we may also offer the specialization in data analytics. That's not yet. I mean, we're in the process of approving the courses and moving them to online platforms. So right now, it's general or supply chain. I know you have your MBA, but if you're obtaining an MBA right now, would you opt to earn an MBA online? Well, consider me. I'm mid-career. I have a very full-time job. So if I obtain my MBA right now, I could not do residential. I live in a small town. I'm nowhere near like a reputable evening program. So if I needed to do it, that would be really my only option. But I would then do my homework and be very demanding in terms of what I get from it. Now, when I did my MBA, I was young. I just came to this country. I came to graduate school, so obviously time was not the issue, and I did opt and I did my residential MBA. And keep in mind, 20 years ago, there was no, technology and abilities were nowhere near today. Okay. So again, depends where you are, what's your opportunity cost, so to speak, in terms of how much time can you afford. And again, how well, given that I just told you that this is very technology, you have to be comfortable in web environment and web conferencing, which I think most people these days are. But those are the factors one needs to consider. All right. By the way, excellent question. So how much is work experience weighed upon as part of admission? Well, very much. Again, longer work experience gets to the point where GMAT is waived. Right kind of work experience also matters, and so again, it is one of the critical factors. Keep in mind, for us, we want people with more work experience because our residential program, we are far from any industrial centers. We don't have many white-collar jobs around here. So we have a lot of smart, young, bright students, but without much work experience. So our online helps us offset that. So we'd like to attract people with more work experience in online. But we also have some young, bright students in our online without much work experience. For example, in every generation, there's a couple of people who actually finished undergrad degree, signed up for a residential MBA, but guess what? They got a job. So they said, okay, I still want to get my MBA, but while I'm doing my first job, I also want to do an online. And they tend to do really well. But again, they are looked upon as the same. Like there is no, when admission committee receives a file, there is no designator, oh, this is an online applicant versus residential applicant. Yes, we require, again, same admissions requirement for letters of recommendation are required for all the MBA applicants, online or otherwise. So, look, we require at least 3, but, put yourself in the shoes of the admissions committee. The question is, if the applicant has difficulty acquiring them, what other alternatives are there? Well, recommendation can come from academia, from your professional experience, or from any other things, volunteering, internships, and so on and so forth. Let me ask you, counter question is, I would be very suspicious of anybody who doesn't have 3 people who can say nice things about them in the whole world. That would raise some red flags, in a sense that if you can find a coach, a professor, or somebody who interacted in any way meaningful that could be a fair judge of your cognitive ability, work habits, ability to get along with others, and so on. So again, that doesn't mean that you need 3 managers to sign off on you, or 3, job supervisors. The recommendation letters come from a variety of sources. No, are the students required to do an interview after being accepted? So we don't do interviews. There's 3 ways we do interviews. Some people want to come and visit, and they want to interview. We interview them, but they're also interviewing us at the same time. So that is kind of like a campus visit or virtual visit. The people we require interviewed, so most of the decisions are based on the basis of what's submitted. Sometimes if there's an issue that admissions committee is divided, they may ask for an interview, regardless on what issue, to kind of, to go beyond what's on paper and in the application, so they want to get a more sense. And sometimes students request that, like, I'd like to make a better case for myself. I know I'm borderline, or decision didn't go their way, then that can also be initiated by the applicant themselves. So what are some common mistakes that you see when students begin pursuing an online MBA? Number 1 common mistake, I would say, they take on too much. They think, no, I want to finish in 1 year, so they take on 3 courses, and then they realize they can't do it. So that's one of the, one of the main mistakes I see when people are in a hurry and then they take on too much. The other is exactly the opposite. They start, and then work takes over, and then they drop out, and then 6 months later said, oh, I need to come back, and then it's kind of like starting all over again. So I would say timing and load management is one of the critical things that you really have to work more with online MBAs than with residential. Because if you hear, you hear. I mean, you're moving on with cohort, where when you're online and have more flexibility, you really have to have some plan and self-discipline to kind of create your own 2-year plan, 1.5-year plan, 3-year plan, and stick with it and embed it into your daily workflow, so to speak. Okay. Do we have a campus component? Excellent, yeah, excellent question. We do have one small campus component for our current online MBA program. So there is an organizational behavior class that's divided into 2 1.5 credits modules, and the first one is residential. So, so what we do is we like to bring everyone on campus for a weekend session where you meet with a professor who teaches organizational behavior, and it's kind of, think of it as team building. You do a group online simulation of running a business, so you get to meet everybody in person, students and faculty. You get to kind of start off on the right foot. Typically, it's either the first thing you do or early in the program. So you may take a couple of online courses, but we like to get everyone to that part in the first or second semester of their experience. So sometimes, but definitely in the first 6 months. In rare cases, that can be waived if somebody is absolutely not able to attend, but we very much would like everyone to at least attend. And you kind of want to see what the place looks like. You do want to. We feel like most people don't mind and can get a release to at least come once. So we used to do it in January, and then we finally realized that Potsdam, New York is much nicer to visit in summer. So now our sessions are in July. So first weekend in July. Now, if that doesn't work, we're moving to the point where we're considering doing this twice a year, so to give people 2 options. So winter wonderland and summer option as well. So great. I'm very enthused by the number and quality of the questions we have received so far. If anything else comes to mind, feel free. I'm going to linger a little bit. Also, let me know. I'm curious if anybody was able to click on the samples that I sent, and would you like me to post them again? I know this chat window keeps scrolling down, so maybe as a convenience, I may just go ahead and post a couple of those links again so you don't have to scroll up all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and post one of the links. There is no password, I believe, needed for this one, so this is the first one. Are funding options any different for online MBA programs? As I said, for many, they are. So for many, they try to treat online MBA as more profit-driven. So even though universities are non-for-profit, except those who are, like Phoenix and DeVry, places like that. But we walked away from that model because we said if we have the same curricular requirement and same academic requirement, then we should treat them exactly the same. So all the funding option in terms of scholarships, in terms of the only thing that should forego, our regular MBA students also have a pretty much, if they want to, they can work as TAs in person. So we don't have online teaching assistantships. But you know what? It is something that also can, you know, if a lot of work that our TAs do actually is online research, online work. So I could see that the case could be made if somebody is really driven to do some teaching assistantship. The thing is, most online students work full time. So assistantship is something that if you work full time, then you really don't want to add more to your schedule besides your academic and professional pursuit by doing some additional assistantships for the school. Again, actually, very good question. I was wondering if anybody was able to click on any of those links, and you know, all of these are really tiny little clips. They last 2 minutes, so just to give you a flavor of what the experience looks like. So I guess that's my question to you: if anybody was able to actually click through and see what these samples actually are presenting properly. And again, I know I'm here, so you may not be able to do both things at the same time, but again, I tend to multitask. One thing that I didn't mention in terms of teaching, now we pretty much adopted the policy that all the faculty who teach should have 2 monitors. So they should have a main monitor or even a tablet where it's like their Blackboard and where they teach. And, oh, thank you. So somebody confirmed the links out. And then another one where you manage your classroom. So you have your classroom management screen where it shows you who is here, who raised hand, we have virtual raising of hands, virtual, you know, walking in, walking out and stuff like that. But then the other screen is where you actually lecture, and that's actually what I'm doing right now. My presentation is on one screen, and then my management of web conferences on the other. We have done this, again, one thing that we have about 10 years of experience in doing that. We started with virtually advancing PowerPoint slides and everybody being on a speakerphone to the point that, you know, we kind of went through several evolutions of this, and I feel one thing that we are proud of is that we learn from our mistakes, and we have institutional knowledge and know-how and level of comfort to do this right. That's another thing that you want to. Is there a possibility that a student can get waitlisted when applying to an online program? Well, we don't really do waitlisting. You're either in or you're not. Now, there are deferrals, but they're typically student-initiated. So let's say somebody gets accepted, but they want to start the year after. We can hold the deferral for a couple of years, so you don't have to go through admission process again. And we do have, again, we'd like to enforce a 5-year limit that somebody who starts should complete in 5 years. I feel like, you know, you don't want to treat this as something like that you go through several periods in your life before deciding to finally complete. I mean, I just got an email from somebody who started, you know, who wants to finish something, and they started in '98, and I'm not kidding. And you know, we want to avoid scenarios like that somebody 10 years later says, "Oh, I was like 3 credits short, and now I want to finish my degree." Now, I know that initially this is scheduled from 1 to 2. I do have to step away at 1:55 or so. So I can be here for 5 more minutes, and I will stay here for 5 more minutes to answer any last-minute questions, but then I actually have to run to another meeting. But again, I will send you, I'm going to post my email, my personal email, so please feel free to send me any questions via email. And again, we have our own, oops, sorry, that was a typo, Clarkson. So there, this is actually correct email, bjukic@clarkson.edu. And again, we can continue this using our own web platform. So we can do this via phone, we can do this via email, or we can do this via two-way video conference. So the platform we use is very similar to WebEx. I don't want to endorse or disendorse any products, but again, we practice what we preach. So we do use platform for interaction with students pre, during, and post being actually in the program. So let me just say one more time, it's bjukic@clarkson.edu. So again, I'll be here for another couple of minutes. If there are any last-minute questions, I'm very happy to answer. What tips can you give for overcoming a low GMAT score or GPA? Yeah, the question is or. If you have a really low GMAT score and GPA, then it's a problem. And I said low, I mean depending what school. We'd like to see it 3.0 or higher, and GMAT, let's say 500 or higher. Again, GPA also depends on what your major is. You know, engineering is typically has lower GPA than, let's say, a liberal arts. But in general, if you have a low GPA, then you should really improve your GMAT score. It doesn't have to be perfect. One of the things with GMAT is I personally very strongly believe that preparation matters. Some people disagree. I do believe that working either through some kind of a course or just by going through tests, you start seeing patterns. There's patterns in a numerical part. There's patterns in verbal part. I always like to mention this. One of the, if you just, there's so many questions on the numerical part of GMAT where they want you to count to a certain number, but you start from 0. So the question is how many people visited between noon and 1 if 5 people came every 10 minutes. But then you realize there's 7 of those periods, not 6. And then, the answer to the correct answer is 14, not 12. But obviously, they give you also the 12 as one of the possible answers. So just by realizing that many of GMAT questions are counting, but not from 1, but from 0, so it's always +1, that's worth alone probably 30 points on the quantitative part. So, there's certain tricks of the trade. And again, if it's a good GMAT prep class, they do tell you those tricks. Some of those you can kind of, a lot of it is just by repetition, by doing as many sample questions and sample tests, you start seeing some of the things. So I don't consider myself super smart. I mean, I feel like I earned my good GMAT scores when I needed to have them by drill. But again, keep in mind it's the whole profile. So your recommendation letters do matter. So we had students who were rejected and accepted on the strength or weakness of the recommendation letters, where everything else was kind of hanging in the balance. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up now. Again, you have my email. I'm very happy to continue this conversation and continue that by using that as my contact info. I really appreciate your interest and variety and quality of questions you have submitted. So I hope we stay in touch, and I hope, if you have any questions, whether it's our program and in general advising how to do this right, we stand ready to help you with all of that. Thank you, and have a great day.